Hello, this is Rich, and in this task, you're going to learn where to find the entity system and basically what it's responsible for. So let's get started. To find the entity system, you're looking for the iEntitySystem.h interface file. So we're going to find that in the CRY-Common, interfaces_h, scroll down, and the iEntitySystem.h. Now let's use the class selector to find the iEntitySystem. Okay. And here we go. Here's the iEntitySystem interface. The entity system is used, for instance, to create, destroy, and manage all entities in the world. And we do have corresponding functions for that. For instance, for management, we have the update function. So the entity system makes sure that each entity is updated per policy. We also have initialize entity. So entities, when they're created, they can be initialized in this specialized function here. We can get entities, and we basically just pass in the entity ID because each entity automatically has an entity ID. So if you want to retrieve an entity in your world, you pass in the handle to it, which is the ID, and bam, you'll return the iEntity. We can find entities in the world by name. So each entity does have a name, so we can just pass in that name there and get the entity back. We can remove an entity, and this is what I'm talking about with destroying. So if your entity is no longer needed, you want to get rid of it, you just use the entity system to remove your entity. Basically just pass in the entity ID, and whether you want to remove it this frame or you want to remove it when the entity system is nice and ready. What else? We have get the number of entities in the world, and that's useful. We can get an entity iterator, which is an iterator which will point to all the entities in the level that you can cycle through in a loop. And we have send event to all. This is pretty important. Entities rely heavily on events. So if something happens in the world, the entity system can notify all the entities of an event that has happened. And we'll get talking to that in the next tutorial, more in detail. And we also have the spawn entity. So let's go ahead and scroll down. Let's use the function selector here and look for spawn entity. Here we go. And this is pretty cool. We can use the sEntity spawn params to specify the class we want to spawn for our entity, position, rotation, for instance, and whether we want the entity system to call our entity's init function for us. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a better understanding of what the entity system is all about and basically how you can use it. See you in the next tutorial.